Hey guys, welcome back to Snack Time. My name is Ben, and in today's video, we're going to take a look at combining the Smith token software that I was showing you the other day with Evilginx, and we're going to combine that in such a way that will allow you to gain a little bit of a foothold on an Entra environment that is using a conditional access policy to require compliant like devices. So I want to show you a website real quick here. I created the conditional access policy from T-365, and I'll put the URL down below, but essentially it walks you through setting up an either only allowing like hybrid joined or at least, like compliant devices, right? So this will block access on devices that are not intra joined or hybrid joined. And I will show you real quick here. This is my environment. This is the conditional access policy I've set up. So I set it up for a specific user for Adele right here. And I have went through and I've done all the resources formerly known as cloud apps. And next on my list, I went down, did the conditions for exclude filtered devices, and you can see over here we are excluding hybrid joined devices. And then lastly, I went down to grant and I checked the required device to be marked as compliant. Some of you may be curious about the session token as well, and I have enabled that on a different policy and it made no difference. And that because I believe it is more geared towards protecting the tokens that are on a machine rather than the attack that we're going to be doing, which is an adversary in the middle. But I'm not going to check that this time, but if you would like, experiment, play with it, and you'll probably run into the same thing I did. So you can see at the very bottom, this is turned on. But before we jump in, I do want to show you that, what happens when someone tries to sign in to Adele's account and they're coming from like a device that is not compliant and registered in Intune. So this is just a regular sign-in window. We're just going to hop on over to office.com. We're going to punch in our username and our password. All right, so we're going to be given our MFA code. I'm going to do that. 45. And before we get too far, we are confronted with you can't get there from here. You can't sign in. You can't really go and do too much of anything. Because we are not from a compliant device, so you're not going to get too far. Yeah, so you get this. Let's see, let's try it again. We're just trying to get to Outlook. And yeah, you can't get her from here. Okay, so let's see what happens when we hop over to her device. So this is just a virtual machine that we have set up, and she is registered with this device. I'm able to get into Outlook and do all of the normal things that I would normally need to do on my day-to-day. See, I'm in Word, everything's happy. Now along comes Mr. Bad Guy. And what he is doing is he is going to use Evilginx to try to steal the token of poor Adele. So I'm going to enable the fish slits for M365. All my tokens are there, my certs are there. Let's see here. There's the URL that I need to make sure that I trick my victim into clicking on. So let's pretend that she did click on it. That's unfortunate. And now all of a sudden we are heading off to this URL. So it's going to tell us we need to sign in. And Adele, the only thing that she is seeing is Microsoft. She's not really paying attention to the URL. So we're going to click on the name and ask us for our password. And now it's going to want our MFA prompt. And crap. So saying that I need to sign into a work thing. So this should obviously be kind of like a warning sign for Adele that something suspicious is happening. And unfortunately also for our bad guy, you know, we picked up the username and the password, and that's cool. We also picked up the MFA method, but like there's no sessions. I didn't intercept any sort of sessions. It kind of stopped there. So unfortunately, I don't really have anywhere I can go as the bad guy. So that's why I kind of thought of, hey, let's combine, you know, the TokenSmith, the ability for it to get around the conditional access policy with Evilginx, and see if I could get a token. And I may not be able still to get to their, you know, her Outlook or something, but I might be able to run like some road recon. I might be able to get some information about the tenant, maybe find out what their conditional access policies are and craft a way around them. So let's do that. Let me show you what happens when we modify Evilginx just a tad. So I'm going to bail out of this. And what I first want to do is to head over to the fishlets folder under Evilginx. And this is where you'll find your 365 YAML files. The YAML files are a way for it to tell Evilginx, you know, what server to hit, where to start relaying traffic from, all the subdomains that are going to be registered, all that fun stuff. So if I'm under my, this is the machine I have the TokenSmith on, have my GitHub in the back here. I'll put the URL down below just in case you didn't see it from the first video. And it's telling us this is what we have to do in order to bypass Intune. All right, so I'm going to run TokenSmith, then offcode, and Intune bypass. If I can spell. All right, so what it needs us to do is to get our unsuspecting Adele to click on this URL and then go into the developer tools and give us the code. And I don't think you're going to be that good at convincing her to do that, but that's okay, because if we steal the token, we can do it for her. So what I need to do is I'm going to copy everything that's after this .com/. I'm going to start at common. I'm just going to highlight this and put this in my clipboard because I'm going to use it in a second. Back at my Evilginx server, let's do this. I'm going to see if I can zoom in just a little bit for you guys. I don't think I'm gonna be able to do this for much longer because you're gonna need to see the whole screen. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy the 365 YAML file that's in here to a different YAML file like TokenSmith. So I'm gonna copy m365.yaml to TokenSmith 365.yaml. And now I'm going to edit it. So you can use whatever editing tool you want to. Some people prefer Nano. I prefer Vim. It's just kind of what I've grown up on. So it's just a little easier for me to use. Definitely use Nano if you're not used to text editing in Linux. I'll do this. And so let's change the name a little bit. I'm just going to call this TokenSmith 365. I'm going to leave Jan right where he is. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom here. So I want you to look at right here. So we have our domain that's specified as login.microsoftonline.com. We look back underneath at our TokenSmith. You can see that the URL is login.microsoftonline.com. So we don't need to change any of that. But what we do need to change is the path. So after our path, we have a slash. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste all that stuff that I copied right in here. So now my new path is /common/OAuth/fun stuff. And now all I need to do is save this. And now let's fire back up our Evilginx server. And right now, 365 is still running and it's still taking up the host name that we're going to use. So let's do this. Let's go to fishlets. Let's disable Microsoft 365. And we have our TokenSmith down here. I think I can zoom in on this one. And let's do this. I'm going to add that host name to my TokenSmith so I can use the same one. I'm gonna do fishlets, host name, TokenSmith, not m365.site. And now I'm going to enable my M365, my token. To enable TokenSmith 365. As long as you are getting all of these certificates registered, then you should be good to go. All right, so now let's do our lures. So I'm going to do lures, and the only one we have is for the 365, but I need to make one for TokenSmith. Do lures, create TokenSmith 365. All right, so now I have one for TokenSmith. Lures get URL 1. All right, so let's copy this URL and we're going to take it back to Adele's computer. Let's pretend for a moment that she has been tricked into clicking this URL that we have so very conveniently placed into our address bar. All right, if everything goes well, should be prompted for her email address. And she's probably not going to notice that it says Intune at the top. She's just going to see Microsoft and think, hey, this is probably perfectly legitimate, and not really pay attention to the URL at the top of the page either. We'll paste in our password. Now we should be getting our MFA code. And now we are waiting and waiting and waiting. And all the while in the background, we have intercepted tokens. Let's do our sessions. And I got a couple of them here. This is the most recent one, which is the one that we just did here at 0203. So if we take a look, we do have the cookie that we need. Adele is kind of in the background in a holding pattern. She's not really sure what's going on, but that's okay because we've already gotten exactly what we need. So let's minimize her for now. And let's copy the cookie that we have stolen into our clipboard. All right, so I've got my incognito window open. Let's go to office.com. Let's go to sign in. Just to show you I'm not signed into anything at all. Let's do this. Let's import my cookie. Imported. And let's go to this address that we wanted our victim to go to. And we need to make sure we have DevTools opened, and that is Control-Shift-J. And we're gonna go to this URL. Yes. So now you can see that we have our URL that we need to copy. I want to copy this link address, paste it in here. And there you go. Just in case you can't see it, we are looking at our refresh token and our access token. These are the things that I would have had to sneak around and get people to give me that address. But since I have stolen the token, it may not get me very far, but it does give me this. If you want to see the information that you can pull up with just the refresh token and road recon, look at my first video with. Hey guys, it's Ben from the next day, and I decided that instead of just telling you to watch my previous video on the things that you can do with recon, road recon, I'm going to just show you real quick. So If you need to know how to install it, definitely check the previous video, but I wanted to show you what we could do with this access token and refresh token. All right, so with my refresh token, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that and set it as a variable. I'm just going to highlight this, copy it. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to do $refresh token equals quote. I'll paste that in and then end quote. And so whenever I want to reference my refresh token, I can just use the $refresh token instead of having to type out or paste that entire string. If I jump back to my GitHub, it'll tell me exactly what I need to run. So I'm going to need to run this road recon refresh token, then my token, and then -c and the rest of the stuff. So I'm going to basically just paste that in there. I'm going to type in my variable name, and then I'm going to copy the rest of this right here. Copy that. And just run this. And this will create my token file that it's going to use for future steps. Okay. All right, my token file has been written, and now I'm ready to do some recon. So if I just type in road recon, it'll give me a list of the things that it can do. And one of the first things that we're going to do is just like a gather, and that is going to kind of enumerate the entire tenant for me. All right, you see in the background, it's created a database. And it's completed. I also want to see the conditional access policies that this tenant has. So let's do road recon plugin policies. I think that should be it. Cool. All right. It's saying that the results that it did write were to caps.html. All right. So one of the things that I love is the quaint little GUI that you can fire up and go through all the information that we just gathered. Let's see. So I'm going to do road recon GUI. Right. And it's telling us we just need to go to this localhost :5000. So let's open up a new browser window here. I'm going to do http ://127.0.0.1:5000. All right, and we now have the road recon site. I'm going to make it a little bigger so you can see it. And now we can just kind of go through the menu items on the left, or we can kind of give an overall view of the environment here too, any sort of security policies that we can gather. Let's see, you can also view raw data on the tenant. That's kind of cool. The thing I love is the users. Like, here's every single user that is in the environment. If we jump into Adele over here, we can see all the groups that she's a member of. We can also look at any sort of owned objects, which means her device. So we click on this, we can see information about her device, device ID, object ID, any sort of raw data as well. So this will sometimes give you operating system. It'll give you make and model sometimes. So that can be helpful. Beyond that, if we click back, we can also see all the groups that are in the environment. So maybe who's in the retail department, or who's in HR, who's in, accounting. And yeah, and going on from there. Oh, actually, we jump back to groups. Oh, we can also see if it's synced with AD. That's kind of cool too. All right, so if we go back to devices, here are all the devices in the tenant. It's just one, and it belongs to Adele. We can see administrative units, nothing there to see. Directory roles, so who has what permissions, who are our global admins. We can see any sort of applications that are loaded, and we can also see, let's see, sometimes we can see also service principals. so we can see what permissions they have. So that kind of tells you all the different permissions that our application has. And moving on from there, we have just a list of service principals, authentication roles, OAuth permissions. So a lot of information. If you go up to the gear at the top here too, you can enable show MFA column. And if you enable that, you'll get at least a little bit of information, but it depends on the privileges of the user. So like our user is just a very low level user. So they really only had permission to see their own MFA. So that's why we're only seeing this here. If we had a more elevated user, then we would see MFA methods for pretty much probably all these people. So definitely pretty cool. Beyond that, let's take a look at our caps. Let's see what conditional access policies we have. And so if we double click on our caps file, here is all the conditional access policies that we could gather information on. So we see blocked countries, we see if there's an MFA policy set up. There's our require Entra compliant devices and how that's configured. We can also see any of our blocked countries, any of our known network lists. So, you know, all good information. Maybe we can use it to get around that whole compliant device thing, especially if maybe you sign in, it's like some people would do if you sign in from a certain IP address, then you don't have to do MFA or you don't have to do this or that. So you know, it's all good information, definitely very valuable for future attacks. Well, I hope you enjoyed this kind of added on section to this video and hope it was worth your time. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. You guys take it easy, be safe.